We're talking about the Florida Gators here, and exactly 1 week from today, Anthony Richardson is expected to hear his name called in the first round of the NFL draft. Now, while Florida fans are excited to see their former quarterback play at the next level, he does, of course, leave behind a sizable hole at the quarterback position for the current iteration of the Florida Gators. So let's welcome in Blake Alderman from Swamp 24/7 to walk us through how Billy Napier plans to fill that hole. Blake, they brought in Graham Mertz in the portal. He's, of course, competing with Jack Miller for the job. But with this second portal window now open, it's no secret that they could potentially try to find a guy there. So what is the plan, though, for addressing that position?
Sure, like you said, coming out of that spring game for Florida, Billy Napier met with the media, and he wasn't shy in saying that, they were looking to add another quarterback to that room. It's a position where Napier has wanted to have four guys on the roster. Currently, there's three. Went and got Graham Mertz out of the portal during that first window. So, at this point, as far as guys in the portal, there hasn't really been any names, but I think that Florida could go a completely different route here. There's still some things maybe to play out, but they have a 2025 commit in Austin Simmons, a four-star quarterback, top 100 guy, right there out of Pahokee High School. This is a guy that is already completed his core high school credit classes. He's essentially done with high school, already taking classes at Miami-Dade College there at the college level. Already has, I think, somewhere 12, 15 credits at that level there. So this is a guy that if he wanted to, he could graduate high school early, move up from the 2025 class to the 2023 class, which is, correct me if I'm wrong, pretty unprecedented. That's not a position that I've seen guys, move up 2 years there. So, that's a guy that, could come in there, forego his last 2 years of high school football, could come in there and start getting that development at the college level, work under Billy Napier a little earlier, and also kind of helps Florida in the sense of, the Jaden Rashada deal fell through there for Florida. And here you go. You can trade that in with another four-star guy out of the 2025 class reclassified. So I think that's one route they could go. Certainly there's another way they could go there if they are some portal names there that they look around and look into. I think that they are exploring every avenue between Simmons reclassification, who hasn't really made a decision on what he will do there. So that could go a lot of different ways. Or there's maybe a name that has already been in the portal previously through that early window if they find through there, doing their research, or if there's any names that shake out there in the second window. So still a ways to go there. But I as far as what Napier was saying there in that spring, after the spring game there, that they're looking for another arm.
Yeah, the quarterback position really intriguing there in Gainesville, and even with DJ Lagway already in the fold in 24. Blake, the Florida coaching staff underwent some changes earlier this offseason. How have the new coaches impacted recruiting here in this 2024 cycle?
Florida lost Kerry Colbert as their wide receiver coach. They lost William Piegler as their tight ends coach, and then Patrick Toney, who was their defensive coordinator, also helped with safeties. Those guys all moved on to the NFL. So they've replaced wide receiver with Billy Gonzalez, who I think, is a great developer, has a long track of developing guys in general and at Florida. This is his third time there. Austin Armstrong, who's the new defensive coordinator there, who spent all of 10 minutes at Bama after he left, his former spot, was the outside linebackers coach there at Alabama. So now he's at Florida, 29 years old, kind of a younger guy, juice on the trail. He brings that to his team. And then obviously Russ Callaway, their tight ends coach, who's been promoted, from within the program as their tight ends coach. I think it's probably still a little too early to really judge where guys like Russ Callaway or Billy Gonzalez are at now. But, I think with Armstrong, you've seen his impact, pretty early. Xavier Filsaime, the 5-star safety there out of Texas, he was the guy that Austin Armstrong, along with Corey Raymond, were involved with recruiting. He's already in the fold. He got him to commit during the spring game. So that's a guy that, had his former position coach and recruiter in Patrick Toney, who left and moved on. There's a vacant role. You're kind of waiting to see where things happen there. You hire another guy in there, gets him on campus there in March. They get a chance to spend time around each other, 2-day stay there. Florida started to really trend there, got him to pop at the spring game. So I think Armstrong is the name where you see the quickest impact so far. We'll see where things are at with Gonzalez and with Russ Callaway. But as of now, I think Armstrong is the one that really jumps out to me as making that quickest impact and, kind of has a little bit more juice on his name.
All right, we talked recruiters. Let's talk recruits. The Sunshine State, of course, always produces that big talent. But the Gators, their top 2 recruits are actually from the state of Texas. There's Filsaime, as you mentioned, and DJ Lagway. So how do you evaluate Napier's use of the Lone Star State in recruiting beyond maybe just this 24 class?
I think it's something that you'll see them try to make in part of their footprint. There's a guy, Joe Hamilton, that is in their off-field staff in the recruiting department, has a lot of ties in the state of Texas. So I think that's where you've kind of seen that catalyst in that 24 cycle that has paid off for them. Lagway, Fields and May, like you mentioned, there's plenty of other guys there in the state of Texas that they're recruiting. I don't expect them to stop there. Colin Simmons, the 5-star edge out of there in the state of Texas. Michael Uini, who's out there as an offensive tackle in the state of Texas. He has an official visit already set up with Florida for the summer. Dalen Evans, a 4-star top 100 defensive end edge kind of guy there that's committed to Texas A&M, took a 3-day visit to Florida early this spring. Immediately looking to set up an official visit sometime there in June. I think Florida is looking like a threat there for a flip at this point. We'll see how things shake out there, but there's certainly very much in that play for him. Bennett Warren is an offensive tackle that's been talking with Florida for quite a while. They're working on an official visit there. So there are several names in the state of Texas. And I think that there's a little bit of give and take here. I think that in general, the 24 class, for the state of Florida, you're going to find talent. That's an every year thing. I don't know that there's really as deep of talent in the state this year that you've seen in previous classes. So I think that that's where they're starting to go into the state of Texas. You've got Hamilton, like I said, with those ties there. And then you've got DJ Lagway, like you guys mentioned. You have a 5-star quarterback that is one of the most relentless recruiters. I mean, this guy flew from the state of Texas to spend like a random Wednesday with one of the 5-star wide receivers in Jeremiah Smith there in the state of Florida, who's committed to Ohio State. Jeremiah wants to come in for an unofficial visit to check out Florida for a spring practice. DJ flies out from Texas and spends the day with him just to recruit him. So you've got a guy that is not scared to recruit people, vocal, has his own game for himself with those 5 stars there on the 24/7 Sports Composite. So I think that having that bell cow certainly helps him in the state of Texas. But I do see that being a state where they continue to try to push those ties and try to make it somewhat of a pipeline for them.
Doesn't he have class?
One of Florida's.
I'm sorry.
Who goes to school? Who needs school?
I'm sorry. I love that, and I love that he's relentless in his recruiting. But I mean, the Wednesday in April, I don't know. I had very different high school experience.
We'll call it spring break.
Okay, cool. That works. Go ahead, Blair. Sorry.
Yeah, no, all good. That was a great segue because Lagway is recruiting pass catchers, and one of the players that is on that list is TJ Moore. He's a 4-star in-state prospect. Maybe Lagway will be flying from Texas quite a bit to recruit him as well. He visited the Swamp recently, and that seemed to move the needle for him. What's the scoop, Blake, on Florida's pursuit of TJ Moore?
Yeah, I had thought for this guy, Florida offered earlier this year. His family, he's got some, I think his mom is a Florida fan. So, it was an offer that, it wasn't kind of like cool, I got a Florida offer, big deal, but he just really didn't seem to have that for a guy that's only a couple hours away from Gainesville. Tampa's in that I-4 corridor. It's an area where Florida really likes to recruit. Usually you got out-of-state vibes, I guess, early on for him. But he did take that visit there in the spring, got that time around Billy Napier, Billy Gonzalez. Those guys are, prioritizing him. The commits in Florida are prioritizing him. Even the fans, when I talked to him last, he said just about every social media account he has, Florida fans are very active with that. So he takes that visit, comes away saying that Florida's his top school. They're the leader for him right now. Clemson, Tennessee, USC, a couple others are still in there for him right now. But as of right now, those schools are chasing Florida. I think it's just a combination of making him a priority. The fact that they really love his game. You don't have a guy that, can make those big play catches that come around and grow on trees in the state of Florida. Jeremiah Smith, who I mentioned earlier, was a guy that is a generational type wide receiver, but he's committed to Ohio State. What can you go wrong there with Ohio State? Their track record of wide receivers. Brian Hartline's obviously doing a really good job recruiting there in the state of Florida. I think TJ Moore is in that same fit of a bigger wide receiver that can also move and make those big plays. So Florida's really has been prioritizing him. There seems to be getting some footing there for them. There's a long way to go here. It is early, so we'll see. Obviously, you want to keep getting him back on campus, which isn't hard. That's an easy car drive. Get an official visit at some point and continue to keep your foot on the pedal there, because you've got some heavy hitters that are coming after him as well. But Florida certainly has made a big move there, bigger move than I had anticipated maybe a couple months ago where they stood with there. But it was a good visit. Florida's on top.
Love it. All right. Moore is, of course, one of many targets on Florida's board right now. So who are some other names the Gators are pursuing?
There's a lot, like you said, but I think some of the top names, I mentioned that the state of Florida is a bit down this year. I think Xavier Mincy, the 4-star defensive back there out of Daytona Mainland, is a big name for Florida. And I say that because he's listed as a safety, and I do think that he's got that build of a safety. But Florida really likes him as, a guy that can move around the backfield, play some corner, be a bigger type of cornerback there. They've obviously worked him out last summer. That's when the offer came to the table. So they're definitely making him a priority early on. He's got a teammate too there at Daytona Mainland and LJ McCray. They're also making a priority. Edge is a big position for them. And speaking of edge, I don't think you could get any better. If you really need an edge player, why not go get the number one player in the 24/7 Sports composite, Colin Simmons, the edge rusher there out of Duncanville in Texas. Got him on campus for the spring game last week. That was really his first visit there. That was more of a true visit. He did visit last summer in June. Was more of a camp visit. You don't get that extended time because there's a lot of camping going on. So he got his first feel there, and I was at the game covering it from the sidelines. DJ Lagway and Xavier Fields-Amay, who is also committed to Florida and committed that day, they were sitting on each side of him. They literally were around him the entire day, took pictures, spent time at the game, really trying to push those Texas ties on him. So Steve Wilfong actually spoke with Colin's mom earlier this spring, and they mentioned maybe coming back to Florida there in late June. So I think that's a chance to Florida get him back on campus, see if they can continue to get some more footing in there. I don't know that I'm really ringing the bell for Florida there yet. I think some schools like LSU, the in-state schools in Texas, those are some schools that are really long-standing, have got them on campus a lot. But I do think that if you can keep getting them on campus, you're at least have a seat at the table. So I think that's where we're at with Florida. Four-star edge Jamonta Waller. Another guy, edge is a big need for Florida, so go get another four-star guy there out of the state of Mississippi. Got him on campus there in spring. They had extended an offer to him recently. He's been blowing up with a billion offers this year. He's got enough offers he can take like your whole family to college with all of his offers. So, they have him penciled down for an official visit there the first weekend of June. Penn State is another official visit there for him. So Florida also really likes, and I think it's something that has been an appealing thing to Waller, is the fact that, yes, he's an edge rusher. Yes, they want him to rush the passer, but he's also a guy that they could move into more of a true linebacker, whether that's bouncing between the will linebacker or the Mike linebacker. So I think that versatility that they want to use for this game is something that's appealing to him. They had a really good visit with him in the spring. Like I said, they've got one of his close friends out of the state of Mississippi, Kanan Daniels, who's already committed there at the running back position. They actually both took that visit together and earlier this spring whenever Kanan got the offer from Florida. Now he's in Florida's class. It can't hurt to have somebody there in your state that you are familiar with that can be in your ear. So that's another guy that Florida really likes too. And again, I'm kind of going off of the top targets at the biggest positions of need. Tight end is another one. Florida didn't land one in that last cycle in 2023. Walter Matthews is a name that they've really seemed to key on early on there out of the state of Georgia. And this was a guy that had been saying long that Florida is the school that's been recruiting him the hardest. And that was dating back to when William Peagler was still on staff there at Florida as their tight ends coach. Russ Callaway, who's come in there really as the replacement, he has not missed a beat. He's picked up, continued to recruit this guy hard. They really probably need to get him on campus because that's a situation where you've got this new coach and yes, he's recruiting me hard, but man, like I haven't seen you face to face. Like, I don't know you like that, man. Like I need to come sit there face to face with you and talk to him. They really like that he's a big size guy that can block and catch. He's kind of that basketball mold, looks kind of like a power forward out there at that tight end position. So the fact that, Florida really likes those tight ends that can block because they like to run the ball, but can also be a pass catcher as well. That's something they really like. So, I think that that's probably the name is tight end, with it being such a need after missing a guy in 23. That seems to me like some of the big time guys for Florida to keep an eye on right now.
I love it. Blake, there were so many people in the chat excited to listen to you today. We got a lot of Gators fans that were excited about this segment. So all the Gator fans watching and, the ones that maybe are fans of other teams, that's all right. Go ahead, hit that like button on the way out to thank our friend Blake. Thank you so much. And for more on the Gators, check out Swamp 24/7 for all things Florida. There's some great recruiting insights, some VIP content. I'm telling you, you're not going to want to miss it. So become a VIP member today. And do not miss a thing.